Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Rudy G Bets Inside the Lines podcast, Season 3, Episode 2. Today, we're going to talk Week 1 in the NFL, along with Week 2 in college football. Once again, I'm joined alongside my co-hosts, Ryan and David. It was a pretty good week for me last week. If you guys remember, instead of kind of bullshitting with the closing remarks, I gave out 3 best bets, and I said I'd tail these. They're going to go 3-0, and that they did. So lived up to the promise there. We want to keep building. We want to keep going. Dave, how was your week? Obviously, I know none of the futures cashed before any of the games played, but overall, what's on your mind?
Yeah, it was a good first slate of college football. As always, there's going to be blowouts week 1 with some of the teams the big guys are playing, but there were some interesting games. I think we would be dumb not to lead off with Colorado, and I think that Colorado-Nebraska game, did I see that right on Twitter? It's like one of the most bet games of all time, has some of the most action on it in college football off of Deion Sanders' Colorado debut. There was some other really good games. Happy with how my freshman quarterback or sophomore quarterback from Penn State looks. So it was a good weekend of college.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into talking about that Colorado and Nebraska game, I think, in one of our first segments here. But before we begin the show, I just wanted to go over, we are going to be doing a giveaway. So here's how to enter. It's going to be for a $50 Fanatics gift card. If you just tail one of our bets, it can't be a best bet, just one of the bets that we talk about during the show, because Rudy will tweet out the best bets. So you have to listen to this show and tail one of our bets that we talk about. Could be just $5 or $10. Just text us or DM a screenshot of your bet. Send it to, the Rudy G Bets Twitter account, or obviously one of the 3 of us if you text it to us. And then we'll draw from a hat. It'll be filmed and completely random. So if you do that, you'll get entered into the draw, and then we'll pick a name. So yeah, that's how to enter that. And with that, I guess we'll get started with the show.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, guys, we're going to be doing that $50 Fanatics gift card. If you just tail one of our bets from the show before the best bet segment and send one of 3 of us a screenshot of the bet, it could be $5, it could be, a zillion dollars, whatever you want to put down, you'll be entered to win. So that's that. And without further ado, we will go over what we thought week 1 college football. So I'll start it off. Obviously, I have to talk about LSU. That was, I don't really even have the words for what it was like at the Rudy G Betts household on Sunday evening. It was not a pleasant sight for anyone involved there. It was very disgusting. Brian Kelly really agitates the living hell out of me sometimes. And then obviously Clemson put even more egg on their face the day after with Duke, although Duke won me money, so I was pretty happy about that. And then kind of the other big storyline was Colorado and TCU in the shootout and Deion's debut, and Colorado emerges victorious. So that's kind of the big 3 storylines for me for week 1.
Yeah, I was obviously, just because we all watch each other's teams, I feel like pretty closely. LSU, I felt like they had those couple big plays on their first drive, got it right down to the 1 or 2 yard line, and then got stuffed, went for it on 4th down, and they kept it pretty close till half, but things just never really bounced their way, and the score kind of got out of hand. But they lost to Florida State week 1 of last year, and they ended up having a pretty good season. But yeah, that I was sure you were frustrated with that. And then with that Colorado game, I know that TCU went to the playoff last year, and I wasn't even coming out and saying Colorado's going to be better than you think. But when you do think about sort of the headlines when he took the job, he was bringing over a lot of his great players, like obviously Travis Hunter and his son at quarterback. So I don't know that we should be all that surprised. And all the Pac-12 teams looked really good. So the last year of that conference, and they had a really good week 1. So it's exciting to watch.
Dave, you guys got to figure out your kicker situation.
I know. Okay, you missed 1 it's college kickers, but you missed 2 inside 30. That was about the only thing that went wrong. And my parents are giving me a hard time. They're like, why are you so mad at him? It's it's a D1 kicker. if you're a Division I big program college football kicker, like, I'm sorry, you get one mistake, but you can't miss 2 from inside 40. So
Yeah,
state kicker there. We'll see who they roll out here next week. Hopefully they don't get Delaware.
Yeah, they replaced him, I guess, but that guy only got to kick like a 25-yarder or something.
Yeah. We'll see if they roll out.
Yeah, Delaware, it should be a blowout, so it doesn't matter.
So with that, we'll get right into our college football week 2 bets. We'll start it out. Give it right back to you, Dave. Anything you're liking for week 2 of college football?
Yeah, again, week 2 pretty similar to week 1. Like, you're looking at some pretty massive spreads. Teams not really getting into conference play just yet. The one game I am looking at is probably the biggest game of the weekend. Texas, Alabama. I see it on DraftKings that Texas is getting 7.5. I mean, last year, I know it was at home, but Texas had that game until Bryce Young led them down the field for that game-winning drive for Alabama. So I know Texas has to go on the road, but you have a new quarterback in Alabama. He was pretty impressive, but again, they played Middle Tennessee. So I like this to be another really close game. Give me Texas and the points at plus 7.5. It looks like you can get that at minus 115.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump right in because that was one of the bets that I had written down and I took earlier in the week. I actually got 8 with Texas, but I would be fine with even 7. But, I mean, obviously get the best number you possibly can. And another bet I wrote down was the under 56 in that game. Like Dave just touched on, Alabama lost. Bryce Young obviously went number 1 to my Panthers right here. And they lost Jahmyr Gibbs, another first-round pick, and Will Anderson. So that's 3 top 15 picks they lost to the NFL. I know Texas lost Bijan, who was their best player, but if you look at it, there's another year for Quinn Ewers in the system at Texas, being the full-time guy here. And Texas played them tough on their third quarterback. If you remember, Quinn Ewers got hurt in the first quarter, then the backup got hurt, and then it was down to the third-string guy. And they only lost by 1 point. I think it was 20-19. I think the final score was. And I think we're going to see more of the same, just kind of uncertainty with the Alabama quarterback room. I guess it looks like Jalen Milroe might be the guy, but they played all 3 last week. It's kind of, murky, I guess I would say at best. And they replaced, like I said, they're going to have to replace 3 top 15 picks, the 3 best players on that Alabama team last year. I think over a touchdown with Texas here is definitely the way to go. I'm personally not that high on Alabama this year. I don't believe I tweeted out anywhere, but just talking to Ryan, some other friends and other people, I really think LSU, and it doesn't change too much that they lost to Florida State like that, but I really think LSU is going to win the SEC West again ahead of Alabama and beat them again this year. But anyway, that's another story. Texas plus 8 and under 56. I think they're mostly correlated plays, but I don't see really too much of an uptick in scoring, and I think Texas sticks around, and they might even win this game. So I am in agreement with David there. Texas with the points.
Yeah, that's one we talked about last year, and I remember I think it was plus 17 or something.
20
big.
Maybe, something like that. It was up there.
I like Texas, and I remember you and Jason was on the show. You guys both liked Alabama. But that one went my way. I don't know if I'll be getting involved this year, but I do have a college play for everyone, and it's a stinky one, but I like Baylor plus 7.5 against Utah. Now, Utah looked impressive. They beat Florida. They handled business pretty easily, but that game was closer than the score. I mean, Florida was sustaining drives. They just couldn't get it done in the red zone between the kicker and fourth downs. They couldn't convert. And on the other hand, Baylor lost as a 27-point favorite to Texas State. So I don't really have too many stats or analytical reasons for it, but I feel like, this game's going to be closer just with how everyone I feel like is going to be jumping on Utah, and the spread is right at that 7.5 number. I'm kind of just reading the number on this one. I don't really have, like I said, any kind of stats to go off of, but just feels like a good spot to take Baylor based on that number. And like I said, I think that game was closer last week than the end score would indicate with Utah and Florida. So that's the
I'm
play.
assuming Baylor's at home.
Yeah, Baylor is at home.
Okay. Yeah, that's one I'll keep my eye on for sure.
Yep.
Dave, how about you? Anything else in college football week 2?
Just to throw it back to, if anyone remembers the beginning of last season on the podcast, I was all over Oregon against Georgia, and they ended up getting pummeled in that first
Oh,
game.
yeah. That was like literally week 1 or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So I know they weren't playing Georgia, but they played Portland State, and in what a much different year, they won 81-7. So I got a
There
little
was a
chuckle
couple
out of that.
thrashings. I saw teams getting in the high 70s, 80s, high 60s. I mean, yeah, it was like, ranked teams against Our Lady of the Blind, but 80 points. I mean, hey.
Yeah, it gave me a little smile. It's like, hey, my boys, they were ready to go this week 1, but nothing else besides that. Like I said, a lot of the games this week, you can go and I see Georgia's minus 42.5. Some of the bigger name teams. I think Michigan's playing a cupcake. So, it's tough until we get into conference play, but I really like that Texas game.
Yeah, I have another one that I feel like someone was going to touch on, but I'll touch on. I'm sure someone else will jump in. I like Nebraska +3, +3.5, whatever it is. I think they're going to win the game outright. And then also another under in that game, under 59.5. Again, I think they're correlated. So last week, if you guys remember on the show, Minnesota money line was part of my 2-teamer that I gave out with Utah in the closing remarks segment. And Minnesota really made me work for that just outright win against Nebraska there. Nebraska turned the ball over, I think, 4 or 5 times last week. They really should have won that game. I mean, Minnesota had 3 points till about the 5-6 minute mark left in that game. And credit to Minnesota, they forced 2 key turnovers and capitalized on both, and then one on a walk-off long-distance field goal to beat Nebraska. But one of the reasons, and you see how well Colorado looked. I mean, literally everyone knows, even if you didn't watch Colorado, it's literally sweeping the nation, has more covers than any NFL game this week, which is kind of insane. But if you looked at the look-ahead line for this, like before last week's college games were played, Nebraska was 7 to 8 point favorites depending on the book. Now they're catching 3 to 3.5 points. I mean, what 1 week? Talk about a week to week overreaction. I mean, 10 to 12 points, and you're thinking to yourself, what did Nebraska lose their starting offensive line, all 5, lose their quarterback? No one's injured. That is going to make a difference in the point spread for Nebraska. You have Jeff Sims at Nebraska, who is a veteran quarterback, 5th-year transfer from Georgia Tech. He's experienced. He had a rough game last week. The offense didn't exactly play up to par, but they're playing a Colorado defense that looks like they're not going to be able to stop anyone this year. And I fully expect Colorado to have a much tougher time this week with the Nebraska defense that looked a lot better, and I think will be a much stiffer challenge than a TCU defense that just clearly could not stop a nosebleed. They couldn't get off the field on 3rd and 4th down. I think this is going to be much different. I think Nebraska is going to run the ball with Jeff Sims at quarterback, use their running game, and really keep that Colorado offense on the sideline. I think Nebraska wins this game outright, and I think it's low scoring, ugly. So Nebraska plus the 3.5, and under 59.5. I really like those bets. So again, 2 dogs and 2 unders in the same games.
Yeah, I like that too, Rudy. I certainly think that, Dion proved that he's going to turn Colorado along a lot quicker than people thought. And I think TCU is kind of a darling. They're in everyone's head because they made it to the national championship game last season. But let's not forget last year with TCU. They barely survived Baylor on the road on a walk-off kick. They had a lot of other close games. And let's think of the last couple games they played. They obviously got blown out by Georgia. Georgia put up a ton of points on them. But then that semifinal game against Michigan, there was no defense played in that game. So there was points everywhere there. And then you see week 1 of this week, their defense looks awful. So, yeah, Colorado was able to move the ball. They were able to score points. But I don't think that's really a product of how good Colorado maybe is going to be this season, more of like a continuation of what TCU and their defensive structure has been the past couple of years. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be much harder for them to score points. And then Nebraska, they're going to try to play Big Ten football with them. They're going to slow the clock. They're going to try to run the ball. And we'll see if Dion in Colorado wants to win a mud fight, or if they're up for that, or they just want to score a bunch of points like they did last week. So I really like that one too.
And not only that, before you go, right, just like if you honestly know nothing about college football, what reason, like I'm assuming everyone knows it, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go and look at betting splits and social media and stuff. Supposedly they're expecting like more tickets and more money on Colorado this week than any of the 32 NFL teams. I just saw that from one of the reports on Twitter. I mean, that's insane. Why? Even if you liked Colorado, that should be enough, in my opinion, to keep you off of it. Like if Colorado somehow wins and covers this game, like Vegas is going to get absolutely slaughtered. And I don't think so, because so many people are going to have Colorado money line and parlays and straight up, and it's just not going to end well. These big games where everyone's on one side, it never ends well. So again, Nebraska is the side I liked. Ryan was talking about it as soon as Colorado won, and I definitely agree. So, Ryan, if you have any thoughts, let's hear them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to go into a whole dissertation. We just talked about it for 5 minutes, but I like Nebraska too. I think it's just a major overreaction to what happened last week. And with gambling, sometimes you have to underreact when everyone overreacts. So, basically just agree with you guys for all the reasons we talked about, and we can move on from that one.
So now I want to introduce, we're changing the show up slightly. We're still sticking to our bread and butter, but want to introduce a few new segments this year. Just talk about more things, listen to different comments and suggestions from friends and things like that. So now we're going to do our primetime segment for the NFL. We're going to talk about the games, see if we have any picks or bets on those games. So we'll start out tomorrow with the Chiefs and the Lions. This game has obviously seen some movement in the Lions' favor. They were about 7-point underdogs when this spread opened back in the summer. Now it's down to about 4.5. Hearing the news about Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, I personally don't have a bet on this game. My opinion would be, now with the perceived line value on the Chiefs, I would say the Chiefs probably win this game, but it's not a super strong opinion. I just think at 7, maybe the Lions. Now at 4.5, I think it's probably Chiefs or leave it alone. I also have a hard time seeing the Chiefs lose on their ring ceremony night at home against a team that, they're projected to be good, but you still need to see it. So no bets for me, but my pick would be the Chiefs to cover the 4.5. Right, how about you?
Yeah, I can't say I really love the side on this either. The line seems to be right where it should be, and over under, can't really say I like that either. I'll probably play a player prop. One of them that I'm looking at is David Montgomery, anytime touchdown scorer. Everyone's thinking of Jahmyr Gibbs right now because he's the new flashy running back. But David Montgomery kind of has taken over the Jamal Williams role, and he's going to get a lot of goal line touches. And this game is going to be, pretty close. It should be back and forth. So he'll have opportunities. And at plus 125 on DraftKings, I think that's a pretty good play, considering that I think he's going to have at least a few carries inside the red zone. So
I will. I don't necessarily know that I love the Lions enough to tell you to take them with the points or on the money line. I will say, out of the 3 primetime games, I believe this is the best underdog value. And a little bit of history here. If you go back, it's funny the Chiefs are in this game. It reminds me a lot. I think it was 2016, the season opening game with the Chiefs and the Patriots. I believe Alex Smith was still even at quarterback from the Chiefs. But the Patriots were getting their rings. It was Kareem Hunt's first really big game. And they went off, and no one was expecting the Chiefs to win. And they came out and they won and shocked the Patriots. And with the Kelce news, if he does not play, And it's going to be Mahomes' first game without Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, like not having both of them. I think like it's now or never for the Lions. Like if they're supposed to be this great new team, new identity under Dan Campbell, like you get the Chiefs maybe a little bit distracted on ring ceremony night. I don't know. It kind of feels a lot like that 2016 game where the Chiefs kind of shocked the Patriots. So don't know if that's enough to take them, but I think out of the 3 primetime games, you get the best underdog value with the Lions.
Okay. And then the next primetime game we will get into is the Sunday night game with the Cowboys and the Giants. Cowboys -3, 3.5, visiting the New York Giants. So, right, obviously you love these two teams. So, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is another one I'm not super interested in. I'm really never interested in betting Cowboys games just because I always want them to lose, so I feel like I'm biased. I don't really know what to make of this. The line seems like it's pretty spot on, too. I'm not a believer in really either team. So, honestly, I don't have too much to say about this one. I'll obviously be watching because it's a divisional game, but I don't really care to bet this one at all.
Give me the under 46.5. I know that's a lower total, but here's my thinking on this. Cowboys, in theory, should have a really good defense entering the year. You get a Giants team that, like, really beyond Saquon and Darren Waller, I don't know if any of their weapons really scare me. Divisional game, so these two know each other's schemes really well. So I like it to be low scoring. Cowboys probably to pull it off. And last thing, I know it's been coming out like McCarthy minus Kellen Moore. He wants to run the ball, pound the ball more. He wants to take the ball out of Dak's hands so he's not throwing as many interceptions. So if we see all of those storylines, I like it to be a low-scoring game. So give me under 46.5.
Yeah, I like that under too, Dave. If I'm playing a total, I think I definitely like the under for a lot of those reasons that you mentioned. Dallas projects to have a really good defense, and I'm not so sure that the Giants offense will be able to get their feet off the ground in week one. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that game later on in the show, but the last primetime game we have is arguably the most anticipated game, depending on who you ask, but we have the Bills at the Jets. Bills about 2.5 point favorites, visiting the New York Jets. So I don't want to say I've gone back and forth on this game because I really haven't. It's just been back and forth on if I want to bet the Bills. I suppose you could make a case with both sides, but the Jets are a team that, if you guys listened to our preseason preview, which if you didn't, you definitely should, that I'm just not nearly as high on as probably the average person would be. I think I need to see them succeed and see them beat good quality playoff caliber opponents before I'm really getting invested betting on the Jets. And one thing about the Bills is they are a proven commodity. So, yeah, I have a hard time making too much of a case for the Jets right out of the gate. I think it's kind of a tough ask. But, yeah, right now it's definitely Bills or pass for me. We'll see if I end up getting to the window.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me too because at home last year, the Jets ended up beating the Bills. That was the game that Allen injured his throwing elbow on that. He had that really long throw at the end of the game to Gabe Davis. So, I mean, the Jets have shown they can do it even without Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know. Sometimes with these teams, they get all this hype coming into the season. A few years ago, it was the Cleveland Browns. Like, they just kind of come out and lay an egg week one. So I don't have strong feelings either way. Like, I think the game is appropriately priced and with the spreads you see. If anything, maybe you could talk me into the under in this one as well. It's at 46.5, oddly enough, just because both these teams should have really good defenses. But we'll see. I'm just excited to see more like, how the Jets mesh, how the Bills use, James Cook and some of those backs. But not any strong feelings on any of the numbers there.
Yeah, if you listen to the preseason show last week, you probably know where I'm going with this one, but you'll hear more about this from me in the Best Bet segment.
Okay. And now we'll move on to some of our week one bets that we like. I will start it out here, and I will go right to a team near and dear Mr. David Payne's heart. I like the Steelers plus 2.5 or plus 3. I got the plus 3 like about a week ago. You could there might have been a plus 3 on like BetMGM or something. Might plus 3 with some juice, like maybe
It's
minus
kind of
120.
plus 2 now at DraftKings. I think.
Yeah, shop around. I mean, I like them to win the game outright, so I guess take as many points as you can. But yeah, one of my bets that I want to share is the Steelers plus 2, plus 2.5, plus 3, whatever you could get. Obviously, I'm cool with, because I think they should be favored in the spot, and I do expect them to win this game. So at first glance, you might be thinking, oh, the Steelers, had a decent season compared to expectations, and the 49ers, were kind of the Cinderella before Purdy got hurt in the NFC Championship game, and it kind of all came to a screeching halt there. But I think this is a tough ask for murky, at best, quarterback situation with Brock Purdy going in there. And this is a tough road environment, week one in Pittsburgh, traveling across country in a non-conference game. And I expect this Steelers defense, to definitely be in the top 5, maybe even the best, depending on some of the health of guys like TJ Watt and Minka and some of the other players. But I think it's going to be a really rough ask for Brock Purdy and company to just get the ball rolling right away against the Steelers. And if you look at it, I think the 49ers, like I said in the preseason preview, could see a step back this year. I don't love their offensive line. I think it certainly is gettable with that Steelers pass rush. And in week one, everyone's going to be at optimal health. I like the Steelers to win in a low-scoring game. Like I said, take as many points as you could get, but I like the Steelers in that one. Another bet, this is one that's going to make people hold their nose even more so, is the Buccaneers plus 6 against the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe Dave is thinking along the same lines, because if you guys remember, the Vikings were his last place team in the NFC North. And on paper, this one might not make a lot of sense, but when you dive into it more, I think the stylistic matchup is pretty advantageous for the Buccaneers to at least stay within that plus 6-ish range here. They have a far superior defense. Now, I understand they have a worse offense, but I don't think it's going to be as worse as you might expect, because the Buccaneers still do have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashard White could be poised to make a step in the right direction now that he is the main ball carrier in Tampa Bay. I know they lost Ryan Jensen, but it's more about, I think the Bucs offense will be okay here because of how poor the Vikings defense will be. And I think the Bucs defense, they really didn't lose anyone. Just some of the guys are a little bit older. I think they'll be able to keep the Vikings in check enough that this game stays within that touchdown number. So I do like the Bucs here. And my last one that I want to give you guys is the Panthers plus 3.5 against the Falcons. I have to do it. I cannot see a world in which the Falcons should be 3.5, 4 points better than the Panthers. I just simply don't see it. The Panthers have the better defense, they have the better coaching staff, and they have the better quarterback. I mean, Bryce Young is better than Desmond Ridder. Sure, he doesn't have the NFL experience, but Desmond Ridder getting, a quarter, 33% of a season doesn't really mean that much to me. Falcons really no home field edge there. And I think it's very obvious what the Falcons want to do on offense, and that's just pound the ball. I would expect Carolina to be fully aware of that. Rookie quarterback or not, I don't care. Also, you have the divisional dogs in week one trend that is very profitable if you just played that blindly. So that only further adds to my case for Carolina. I think Carolina wins the game outright. I think Carolina is better than Atlanta, and I think they show it right out here in the gates. And then my teaser option of the week is the Steelers and Green Bay. I gave my Steelers reason, so getting them up to 8.5, going through the key numbers. And then Green Bay plus 1.5 point underdogs up to 7.5 against Chicago. I know it's Jordan Love now, but I think the Packers have the better roster, and I'd be surprised if they lose this by more than a score. I think they'll actually win the game. So those are my week 1 bets. Rye, how about you? What do you got for us?
I'll start with one you just talked about there. I like the Packers money line. Are we sure the Bears are even that good? I feel like they're kind of another team that's been overhyped this offseason. If you look at their last 6 games from last year, 5 of those 6, they lost by 7 or more points. They were kind of getting blown out consistently at the end of last year. Jordan Love, I'm kind of a believer a little bit in him. I think he's shown some promising signs. They still have some good weapons on offense. There's still Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. Christian Watson is in his second year. Romeo Doubs could take a step forward. So then the Packers also beat the Bears both times last year by 1 or more scores. So I do like that.
I just want to jump in because both you guys touched on the Packers. Just something to watch with that game. I believe Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs both did not practice today. So you want to see them get in a full practice. Like, God forbid they should be without both those guys. Then I know that's going to change the pick for you guys, but just something to watch. But carry on.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Okay, thanks for bringing that up. Well, yeah, I mean, if both of them aren't able to play, I would maybe switch off of that. But I'll give you another one. So Vikings and Bucks, Rudy talked about this one too. I like the over 45.5. The Vikings defense, everyone knows, absolutely horrible. You still have good pass catchers like Rudy touched on the Bucks. You got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. And Baker Mayfield, he's the butt of everyone's jokes, but he might be somewhat okay with this offense, especially against the Minnesota defense. And the Bucs defense is kind of fallen apart a little bit. They ended up at the end of last year, they were giving up 24 more points in 5 of their last 6 games. So their defense really kind of fell apart at the end of the season. I think that's a recipe for an over here. Over 45.5, I like that. So that is another one of my plays.
I'll jump in. Rudy, appreciate the love for the Steelers. They almost made my board. If Nick Bosa didn't sign that contract today and it looked like he was going to be out, then they would have made it. But really quickly on that, past 2 years, they opened up week 1 dogs 2 years ago against Buffalo, outright win on the road. Last year, week 1 dogs on the road to Cincinnati, outright win there. So they have some week 1 magic the past couple of years. Let's see if they can keep it going. I have 2 ugly ones on teams I don't expect to be on much this season, but week 1, let's just shoot our shots here. First one, Manders -7. I know 7's a big number. I know typically week 1, those big numbers don't usually cover. If everyone says Arizona is tanking for that top pick, let's see it here week 1. They're going to start Josh Dobbs. They might be without Hollywood Brown. If they're without Dobbs and Hollywood Brown, I think this Commanders defense is good enough. Sam Howell is good enough where they should be able to win by more than 1 score. So I guess I'll hold my nose on that one. Even more so, hold my nose. I'm looking at the Raiders on the road in Denver. They are 3.5-point dogs. Everyone likes to rat on Jimmy G. He's going to be healthy week 1. He's going to play. Devontae Adams is going to be out there. Josh Jacobs is going to be out there. And like we talked about last week, like Sean Payton's like making excuses, making it seem like, okay, if it goes bad this year, it's Hackett's fault. They probably won't have Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick. They're not going to have. He's done for the year. So what weapons?
KJ Hamler.
Yeah, the Raiders I don't anticipate to be very good this year, but if the Broncos are missing those guys, let's let it fly with the Raiders. 3.5-point dogs. Give me the points with the Raiders. So they'll be my 2 picks for week 1. Commanders and Raiders. I did not have that on the bingo card.
I like the Raiders, Dave. I agree with you on that one for sure.
So another new segment I wanted to introduce for everyone is our Dog of the Week. a money line underdog of 3 points or greater, field goal or greater, that we think has a chance or our best chance to win outright. Obviously, it's week 1. Last year, year before that, it always gets crazy. These underdogs are barking early and often. So I will start here, and I'll pick up right exactly what the team Dave just left us with. And the team I wrote down is the Raiders, +4 on the spread. But I think they win this game outright. You could get them in the +155 to 165 range. Check your book. I think they win this game outright. The Raiders, they won both meetings last year. Yes, I know it was with Hackett and not Sean Payton, but I mean, what did the Broncos really improve upon? In my opinion, they made no roster improvements. In fact, their offensive roster, especially for week 1, is going to be worse. They're without 3 of their top 4 receivers. I think people are just banking on Russell Wilson just being better, just because, but there's really no indications that he is going to be better this year, and I think he's going to struggle without 3 of his top 4 receivers. And the Raiders have been very good against the Broncos. The Broncos have not beat the Raiders by over a field goal in 10, so that would be over 5 years now. I think it was the last 10 meetings that I saw. The Broncos have not beaten the Raiders by more than a field goal here. I know I was down on the Raiders. I gave them as an under for my season win total projection, but I feel like I also specified that I don't think the Broncos are really going to be much improved at all, really, this year. This is definitely a game the Raiders could get. Who are the Broncos to be laying 4 points in a division game right off the bat after losing 3 of their 4 best receivers and starting a new coach that I think is insanely overrated? So yeah, give me the Raiders on the money line. I think they beat Denver once again.
Yeah. If I didn't take the team I'm going to talk about right now, the Raiders were my next pick for dog of the week. The team I'm going to pick just made your qualifications of at least a field goal and then plus on the money line. Give me the Titans on the road, +140. They're also getting 3 points. It's kind of similar to Rudy's point about the Broncos. Like, yes, the Saints definitely improved at quarterback. I don't care what you think about Derek Carr, but he's better than Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston, what the Saints are rolling out last year. Again, the Titans might, finish the season poorly. I know they lost 8 straight games at the end of last year, but they're going to start the season healthy with Tannehill, with Hopkins, with Derrick Henry. And we'll see if Burks can play. I know he was dealing with an injury in the preseason, but Vrabel teams, they always play tough. They're always in games. They never really get blown out. I mean, it was a team that last year with Malik Willis took the Chiefs to overtime, so they're in every game. I like them with the possibility to win outright. The Saints are going to be without Kamara. They may be without Keandre Miller. So then you're rolling just Jamal Williams. I like the Titans defense a little bit in this game. So give me the Titans +140 as my dog.
Yeah, talking about a dog or 3 or more here that we like. I'm going with the Raiders too. Dave touched on it. Rudy touched on it. Now I'm going with the same thing. Jimmy G, I don't think is, much of a downgrade from Derek Carr. There's bad vibes with the Broncos, like we kind of touched on the pre-season show. So I don't really have to dive into it too much more than we've already talked about it, but I'm going with the Raiders too.
All right, so our dog of the week, we have the Giorgetti brothers with the Raiders and Dave with the Titans. But with that, guys, we'll be right back and we'll get you our show best bets. You have been listening to Season 3 of the Rudy G Bets Inside the Lines podcast. We'll be right back after this with our show best bets. All right, guys, and we are back for my favorite segment of the show, the best bets. It's time to get the ball rolling, start off on the right foot here in week 2 of college, week 1 of NFL, and I'll hand it off to you, Ryan. What is your best bet for episode number 2?
So I teased it a little bit earlier, but my best bet is going to be the Bills -2.5 against the Jets on the road. The Jets were a team that I talked about in the preseason show that I just was not buying. I'm still not buying them. Just too much offseason hype. And, you have the Bills who had a disappointing loss against the Bengals in the playoffs, obviously. Everyone seems to be a little bit down on the Bills, thinking that they're just not going to get it done anymore. But I just don't see that being the case. I think they're still one of the best teams. They could easily come out of the AFC. And they started off the season strong last year. They went on the road against the Rams and absolutely obliterated them in week 1. I just I'm just not buying the Jets. Like I said, I don't have a ton of, no one I feel like has a ton of stats here for week 1. But I just think the Bills are the more talented team, especially at quarterback, and I think they'll get the job done.
All right, so Ryan going with the Bills on Monday Night Football to top the Jets and cover the 2.5 number. Dave, how about you? Show best bet for episode 2.
Yep, I'm going to lead it off. I'm going to go with an AFC South matchup. Give me the Jaguars -5 to cover that 5 number. I like them to win by a touchdown or more. For me, it comes down like shit or get off the pot if you're the Jaguars. Everyone's picking them to win this division. They almost, gave the Chiefs a run for their money in the divisional round. Last year, they had a really good year. Like, I expect Lawrence to improve. I expect that defense to be better. They added Tank Bigsby. I think that backfield's going to be good. And if you're the Colts, you're starting a rookie quarterback. You have all the Jonathan Taylor drama. He's obviously not going to play. So who does that leave you then with weapons for Anthony Richardson, like Michael Pittman and their big tight ends? I just think that is, even on the road, I like Jacksonville to cover that 5 number. So if they're going to be as good as everyone says they are this year, like, come out and prove it. I don't think this is going to be a close game if Jacksonville is who they say they are. So give me the Jags -5.
All right, we got 2 divisional favorites here, and we're going to make it 3 divisional favorites. My best bet for the NFL, I have 1 NFL, 1 college. Actually, let me start with college first. So we'll go to college football here, and my college show best bet is NC State Wolfpack at home versus Notre Dame plus the 7.5 points. I have a lot of reasons for this one. So in week 0, if you want to call it that, well, that's what they do call it, but Notre Dame played Navy. They won 42-3. Then Notre Dame played Cupcake State last week. Not a lot to really take from those games, in my opinion. And last week, NC State played UConn as 14-point favorites and won by 10. I was on UConn plus the 14, and it was kind of debatable throughout the whole game if which team was going to get that cover. Really kind of came down to the end there. So I might be more, how do I put it? NC State did kind of what I expected, so to speak. I don't think only winning by 10 against UConn. People forget UConn was 6-6 and made a bowl game for the first time in like 20 some years or whatever, with Jim Mora as the new man in charge last year. So I think this UConn team could only go up. So I'm not really going to ding NC State for that performance. Their defense played really well. The 2 touchdowns that they let up were just big chunk plays. Overall, they were pretty stout. And like I said, with Notre Dame, there's not a ton that you could really take from playing Navy and then playing, I forget who even it was last week, some like FCS school that they won by 100 again. But there's a few things that I like here.
Tennessee State.
What was it?
Tennessee State.
Sure.
Eddie George is the coach. I didn't even know that.
Oh, really? Okay.
I
actually think I did know that. I remember seeing that. I think his son plays for him. But anyway, NC State. Notre Dame played first week in Ireland. They're one of the few teams that play week 0. Then they went home, and now they're going to North Carolina here to play the Wolfpack on the road 2 out of the first 3 weeks. But some things I like on the NC State side is quarterback Brennan Armstrong. He's back with his offensive coordinator from Virginia from 2 years ago. And I think the familiarity there, again, with another week of preparation, another game, I expect the NC State offense to progress here. And another transfer, Sam Hartman, who's now at Notre Dame, was at Wake Forest. They lost. They actually got blown out last year versus NC State. And this NC State team was pretty banged up last year. So NC State is definitely familiar with Sam Hartman. I think NC State might win this game outright here. So I'm happy to take over a touchdown against a Notre Dame team that is always overhyped, in my opinion, and ranked higher than they should be. So give me NC State. I think they keep this one close, and they might just win it outright. So back to NFL, my NFL best bet. Ryan, sorry, you're probably not going to like this one, but I'm taking the Cowboys -3 on BetMGM. You get it -3, -115 juice. The Cowboys -3 against the Giants here. I absolutely love this bet. Number one, the Giants are already a public dog. I don't understand that whatsoever. There's not a lot to like about the Giants, in my opinion, this year. They were very fortunate in close games last year. There was a lot of wins that they got. They really shouldn't have. And they still have no weapons. I know they got Darren Waller, but Darren Waller has been hurt. He's been underperforming. And now just in a new year with a new offense, he's supposedly just to be the savior outside of Saquon. I don't really see it. They had the offseason drama with Saquon. I think it's only down from the Giants with here. On the flip side, I think the Cowboys are primed to be actually a pretty good team this year. I know they lost Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, but I think getting rid of Zeke is a positive. Using Tony Pollard and Deuce Vaughn is a positive. Getting Brandon Cooks is a positive. I think their defense, getting Stephon Gilmore, is another positive in the right direction. So I think the Cowboys going against the divisional dog trend, I still don't care. There's really no case that I could make for the New York Giants here. I think this team, like I said, even in year 2, you would expect maybe the common theory would be for this team to grow and progress, but I think they did as good as humanly capable. I mean, Daniel Jones was, went from not even getting his 5th-year option to getting a massive deal in the span of 1 year for the Giants and winning a playoff game last year. I mean, I don't see how this team goes up from that. I think they massively overachieved, and I think Dallas takes it to them big time. I got Dallas by at least 10 here. I don't think the Giants are really going to be in this game. So give me the Cowboys -3 and NC State +7.5 as my show best bets.
I know they're America's team, but this also makes the 97th year in a row, week 1, that the Cowboys get the Sunday night football game. The NBC just needs to shove the Cowboys down our throat every single year. They'll probably have 5 more Sunday night football games, but just once, week 1, I would like to see anything other than AT&T Stadium. But we'll be watching for your best bet, but just had to get in there with that. It just seems like every year they get the first Sunday night football game.
Yeah, they play the Giants a lot on prime time to start out the year, but it's not one that I love the teams involved. I just really am confident that the Cowboys blow them out of the water. But with that, we'll get everyone out of here and we'll go to closing remarks for episode number 2. And as we always do, Dave, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so we were in a fantasy draft together, and I have to call out someone. I hope he's listening. I'll lay out the scenario for you. We've all been there before. You see a guy dropping you, and you're like, I'm going to get him. But then the guy in front of you is on auto pick, and you're like, if he's the best left available, I'm never going to get him. So in the 5th round in a PPR, Mark Andrews was going to fall to me. I was going to take him. I needed a tight end. And Felix Dolman on auto pick just gets him because he's the best available, because of course he is in the 5th round. So do better, Felix. I should have Mark Andrews on my team. You should have to trade him to me for nothing. That was probably the worst part of my weekend. So, I mean, it was, I can't even speak. I'm still a little bit steamed about it. So enjoy him in the 5th round. But that should have been mine. Move on.
I have been there once or twice before, and that is extremely frustrating. You think when there's enough of a financial aspect to the league that people wouldn't be on auto pick, but it happens sometimes, I guess. Yeah, don't really have too much on my end other than just reminding you guys to tail one of our bets, not a show best bet, for a chance to win that gift card. And go Birds, -4 this weekend. Probably won't be touching that number. Kind of fishy like it was last year against the Lions. But as long as they get the job done, the Lions got that backdoor cover last year. Maybe that's what happens again this year. Just looking for the Eagles to get that W on Sunday. So get off on the right foot and maybe get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, closing remarks. Just hoping to go 2-0 on the best bets and obviously go positive with the other show bets. LSU will not be losing this week because they are playing Grambling State and they're favored by 100. So I won't have to worry about them very much. Honestly, probably won't watch very much of that game. And then for the Panthers against the Falcons, yeah, I'll be glued to that Sunday. Really hoping Carolina gets the outright upset, although I don't really consider it that big of an upset. We'll see what happens. Everyone loves the Falcons, and I obviously do not. So, yeah, let's hope 3-0 for our teams would be good on the money line. That'd be good. I think that's certainly a possibility. 2 dogs and a small favorite. So, yeah, maybe you could do the Rudy G bets and co-host money line parlay. I don't know what the odds are, but that might be a good one for Week 1 in the NFL. But with that, guys, Rudy, Ryan, and David signing off. NFL Week 1, College Week 2. Enjoy. Make sure you enter the contest, tail the bets, and we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.